Hi everybody, it's Jana Malmy, and I have a bunch of photos here that I want to scrapbook on one page without it being too busy. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that using flip flaps. Flip flaps are a really awesome, almost like a memory protector. I mean, it is a memory protector. They're called memory protector flip flaps, and they come in all different sizes. I have 4x6 and 3x4 here. And they can go this way, landscape orientation or portrait orientation, or you can even adhere this one sideways and this one sideways, however you want. But this is going to allow me to put lots more pictures on my page without disrupting the design of the layout. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that in a more unique way than I have in the past. I've done lots of videos using flip flops because I love this product so much, so I will link to those in the description below. I wanted to show you the collection I'm going to be using, since these are beach photos from a trip to the Oregon coast when I lived in Oregon still. I pulled out my Summer Vibes collection, which is a brand new collection from close to my heart, and I think these colors work for lots of great summer photos. I also have the sticker sheet, which you can see I have dug into. So I do want to use like a sun, and I want to use some flowers and a summer title. And so there's actually a Cricut collection that coordinates with this collection. And so I'm going to be pulling some Cricut cuts in. I also have the coordinating cardstock. One of the great things about all of our paper collections is that there's always a coordinating cardstock collection. So if you grab that for 10 bucks, you have enough cardstock to work with to match your projects that you're using that paper for. And so let's just go ahead and get into it.
So I wanted to make sort of a beachy scene at the bottom of my layouts. And so I'm cutting out the waves from the lighter end of this wavy patterned paper because that seemed to match my photos a bit better than the darker grayish blue at the top. So that's why I used both sheets of this paper from the pack so that I could get the lighter shade. But depending on your photos, you could get away with just using one sheet of paper for both sides of the waves on the layout. And then I wanted to create some sand, so I pulled out some toffee cardstock, which is much like craft cardstock. So you could use craft if you don't have toffee, but the toffee has a white core, unlike craft. And so depending on which way you pull the paper when you're tearing it, you'll get the white core showing on one side and not on the other. So that's kind of a fun look. And then I'm going to go ahead and sponge the tops of each of these layers to give them a little bit more dimension and make them pop. I'm freehand cutting one of the sides because I wanted the waves to line up at the seam between each of the layouts. So I just freehand cut that a little bit to do so. And then here we go with the sponging. These blending brushes give just a light coating of the ink. I'm really enjoying them. I got them on Amazon. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that to the sand with Desert Sand ink, which is retired. You could use the toffee ink, of course, which is the current color. And then Glacier ink for the waves. And then I went to adhere that, but then I decided I wanted to have a colored outline around this white base. So I had the fern cardstock that you see down there with all the Cricut cuts in it from the Cricut cuts I'm going to bring in a bit. And when you cut on the Cricut, it leaves like that 1/8 of an inch where you don't have where it starts cutting. And so I cut the green or the white cardstock down 1/4 of an inch so that there was an 1/8 of an inch all around, and I could use that Cricut cut cardstock. And if I had thought ahead, I could have had the Cricut cut the images in a little bit more, so I could have had a bigger border, but this worked out well, and so I just went with it. And then I had the waves and the sand still span across the entire 12 inches rather than just across the white cardstock. So on the other side, I had a full piece of fern cardstock, and I just gutted out the inside so that I didn't waste any of that cardstock on the inside, since just a tiny bit's going to be showing. So there is the other side, and I'm putting that on with liquid glue because I'm going to have to tear or cut off the bottom end of it. So I just wanted to have a little wiggle room to line it up to the page next to it. Here comes the sand, and then we will start laying out the photos. This video is a collaboration with the creative design team, and we are coming up with creative ways to use flip-flaps. So I encourage you to check out everybody else's videos, which I will have linked in my description below, so that you can see all of the creative ideas that they come up with. These ladies are super talented, and you are not going to be disappointed in checking all of those videos out. So here we are with all of the photos. On the left, we are going to have a 4x6 flip flap, and then on the right, we're going to have a bunch of 3x4 flip flaps that are going to cascade down and sort of create this waterfall effect. So you want the sticky side up when you're putting the photos in. And so that one's going to be on top. I'm going to put the one on the other side upside down so that it's right side up when it flips up. And you'll see me in a little bit fold that sticky side back, and then that's what will adhere to the page protector. So we put these directly onto the page protector, so I'm not going to adhere them yet. I will adhere them after I'm finished with this layout. So now I am deciding what papers I want to go behind the photos there. I decided on this floral background, although I did also really like that last paper with all of the fun summary icons on it as well. I probably chose this one because I do love florals. So this is going to be the background, sort of like the matting behind all of my little flip-flops that are going to cascade down. I decided I wanted it to adhere behind the water and sand, so I had to carefully peel those back a bit, which was a little tricky, but I got it enough to put that back there. And then I'm going to ruffle up the edges to give it a little dimension, and also since I kind of ruffled them anyway by peeling them back, but that's okay. This point, once I had 3 of the flip-flops down, I really wanted to have more of a cascading effect, and I had one extra photo that I printed and didn't use because it didn't have a companion for the other side of the flip-flap. But then I decided, well, I can put a journaling spot on the other side of one of the flip-flops. So I did decide to use a 4th flip-flap, and it gave the right look that I wanted. I could have even added more photos if I had them. And so you can add even more to give more of a cascading effect. So here's the journaling spot I pulled from a Picture My Life card pack. So for this photo here that I'm working on, I really, really like this photo of my parents with their 4 grandkids, and I wanted to highlight that on the page. So I ended up doing a triple matte, and first I matted it in white because I just like my photos matted in white usually, especially if it's a kind of a darker background. And then I decided what else to back it in, and I went with the Candy Apple Red because it was bold and really stood out against everything else that I'm using. I think in the end, I kind of wish I used the Smoothie, which is the color that Summer is in, because the Candy Apple just kind of pops a little bit too much, but you know, I still like it, but sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done this differently. But right now it's double matted, and then I ended up actually adding another matte to bring in more yellow over on that side of the page and make it stand out even more. I really wanted to try using that chill sticker, but it just wasn't fitting in a way that I liked. So I decided to just use the summer, which was cut with the Cricut collection. So now all of the Cricut cuts are pulled in. The Cricut collection that goes with Summer Vibes is a mini collection, and I really like that Close to My Heart started adding these little mini collections for $9.99 that correspond with each of the paper packets. So this has a lot of the same icons that are on the sticker sheet and in the paper pack, and you can just cut them over and over again. That ice cream cone I think is so fun, especially since I have ice cream photos. So I decided that I wanted splatters, and so first I used my lemonade ink to, and then added water to it and picked it up with my shimmer brush to create yellow splatters. Now there's actually a lemonade shimmer brush now, which I have on order, but it hasn't reached me yet. So this is how I made my lemonade splatters, and it works just great. I've done this many times. You could also use just a water brush or a paintbrush to splatter it if you don't want the shimmer in it. And then kind of my thing lately is black splatters. So if you've watched any of my videos, you know that that's kind of my signature move lately. So I wanted some black splatters to sort of stand out as well. And so I just used black acrylic paint for that. I am now adding all of the Cricut cuts and adhering everything together. I'm using a couple of different glues. I'm mostly using this Tombow fine line glue. I really like the glue in the green bottle because it's sort of like a tacky consistency, and I just like it. There's also the blue bottle, which comes out clear. They both dry clear. It's just a matter of preference. I really like this one. So I'm putting these ones over in the corner, but remember there's going to be a flip flap there on top of that photo on the left. So I'm being careful to add my elements just overlapping the photo a tiny bit so they still look good peeking out from behind the flip flap photo. I pulled out another picture of my life card to add on the back of that flip flap, and I can add more journaling there. Or just leave it as is. It's just a really pretty paper. So there's my third mat on that photo, and I'm going to adhere that down. And so, truth be told, I think that mat is just a little too bright for me. I would use the backside of Candy Apple or Smoothie if I were to do it over again. But hindsight is 2020. Looking back at your layout on video is always a lot different than when you're actually going through it and creating it. I guess looking down instead of kind of sitting down. All right, so I've got everything mostly in place, and now it's time to add the flip flaps. So I pulled off the adhesive and I just folded it back and adhered it right onto the page. Super easy. And now with the cascading flip flaps, I am starting at the bottom because they're going to layer up on top. And I tried kind of spacing them out where I wanted them to be and making sure that they're lined up correctly. Now, if you put them down wrong, don't worry, you can pull them up like I'm going to do here in a second. I realize I put this one a little too low. Peel it up, add it a little bit higher, and it still will stick really well. These stick very well. You do not have to worry about them falling off. It's a very strong adhesive. So I like that the pretty pattern paper shows through, but I thought it would be kind of a fun little surprise to add a few stickers as you lift up those flip flaps. So I pulled in some stickers from this sticker sheet, and I'm just adding them underneath each of the flip flaps here for a fun little effect. It's a little more whimsical than I would do on a typical layout, but since they're kind of hidden, I thought it was fun. This is something I like to do on pocket pages because I feel like pocket pages are not quite as formal as 12 by 12 traditional pages like this, and so I add a lot of little doodads on pocket pages too.
Okay, here's what it looks like while it's in the page protectors. I added this little insert, which I do a lot to fit more pictures. These are all of the portrait orientation 3x4s that I printed. And then I also added some little pocket cards, cut some of the pattern paper down to 3x4, added some stickers to the outside of the page protector, which I tend to do a lot, especially when I'm using small pocket pages, because you can't put a lot of bulk in these small pockets. Even though this is just a sticker, I just found it easier to add it to the outside. So the full spread, here is the page that I showed you with the flip up, and I'll add my journaling here. You can see that this is covering the ice cream cone just a little bit. I did keep that in mind as I was designing it. It's showing most of the way, just covering a tiny bit, so that's just fine. Add a little popsicle here and some embellishments to the outside of the page protectors. And then here is the other side with the bigger photo and this little cluster here. Again, some stickers on the outside. And then we've got our little waterfall look. And I thought it would be fun to add some stickers under here as sort of like a little surprise add-on when you lift these up. You can see the pretty paper underneath still. And then I'll add some more journaling here. So I fit tons of photos from a long weekend visiting my parents at the Oregon coast onto just a 2-page spread with an insert. So that was super awesome. I wanted to show you some other flip flap pages I've done. So you can see here's the back of that Cricut page that I used. So this is one from 2 years prior, or no, the year before that one, also at the Oregon coast visiting my parents. And I added more photos again on one of these insert pages. These are called Pocket Plus page protectors, and we can get them in 3x4 landscape or portrait, or also 4x6 landscape or portrait orientation. And then I also used a flip flap here because I had a couple extra photos, didn't want to put them on the layout. There's already a lot of photos on this side, and so I was able to just add these couple more photos here. Actually 3, because this is 2 photos and then another photo. And then another one that I did with those same Pocket Plus protectors. So we went to a concert that was a really important concert to my husband and I, and we got one of the posters, and that took up most of this page, and I didn't want to cover it up with photos. And then we got the set list, which was a super big deal to us. And so that took up a lot of this page as well. So I was able to add a couple pictures here, but I also added the Pocket Plus protectors. I added a skinnier one that's 4 inches, and then you can still see the 6-inch one kind of sticking out. So it's like a layered effect going on here. So I was able to add most of the photos from that night to these 2 little inserts and journal about getting the set list and all of that. So that was another fun way to use the Pocket Plus protectors. No flip flaps on that one. So this is another fun one where I used a flip flap, and this is actually from Close to My Heart subscription pages. So this was all mostly pre-designed. I changed it up a bit, and I'll link to the process video below, but I added a couple more photos by using a flip flap without interrupting the intended design of the layout. Okay, and here are a couple of complete pocket pages that I use flip flaps on. So you can use flip flaps on your pocket pages as well. So there's a 4x6 one here. This is a much older collection that I used. Here's a 4x6 one here. And then one more example is this pocket page here. And I'm sorry for the glare, I can't really help it since these have to stay in the page protectors, but there is a flip flap there. Again, I embellished on the outside. I like to do that, especially with the pocket pages, because once I get the photos laid out, I like to put them in and then do the embellishing so that I can get kind of a holistic view of the spread, but then also this way I can overlap over the seams like this, and I can add some more bulk, which if I put these veneer hearts on the inside of this pocket page, it would really add a lot of bulk to that small pockets. So I tend to add them to the outside, especially for pocket pages, but you can do that for any of your pages. Just make sure they're adhered really well. So that's all for today. Be sure to check out everybody else's video in this collaboration. I will link them below along with my foot flaps videos and playlist. So be sure to check that out. Hit see more in the description if you don't see them right away.
I'm going to leave you with some still shots of the layouts now, and I hope you enjoyed learning how to use flip-flops in a fun and interactive way, and that you're encouraged to try them to add extra photos or journaling or memorabilia to your next layout. If you enjoyed this video, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to be notified when I post new videos. All of the supplies that I used are linked in the description below. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.